Hi, Kendra. Great to finally get together to do this. We had planned this for, I think, over a year.
Yeah.
But, time scarcity. So that's our little topic today. So tell me a little bit about what that means to you and how that relates to your day to day.
Yeah, I would say the feeling that we don't have enough time is the thing that probably plagues me the most. I think most of us play a lot of different roles in life. So I have parents that I help care for. I have two kids. I have a life partner. I stupidly adopted a new puppy. And then on top of that, in my career, I have a research lab, but I also teach and I have, a considerable service load. And then there's all the other things that you really, really care about, volunteering and community and friends and health and wellness. And, when you get down to it, it's like, getting one thing done in a day can feel absolutely heroic. And the idea of adding anything, especially this time of the semester, is terrifying.
Right. So do you think that this is the reason that a lot of people struggle in academia? So the data on that are really quite mind-boggling, I think. Um, I read studies that suggest that not only graduate students, but also faculty suffer from mental health issues, depression, anxiety. It affects people in academia more so than in the general population. And so I ask myself, why is that? Because aren't we told, there's all this freedom that comes with a job, and that is why, we take lower salaries than we would probably get if we did jobs in industry, and we take these like challenges to always have more work than time. What are your thoughts on that?
So many thoughts. I mean, there is this like kind of bad joke about academia, right? Which is like, sure, you can work whatever 60 hours a week you want. Um, but we do have flexibility. We do have more autonomy. And those are things that are really important to mental health, but you have to recognize them. And I think the trap that I had gotten into, at least, was that I would create a to-do list at the start of each week and then again at the start of each morning because I'm really, really good at planning, coordinating, color coding. So I always was looking at this very long list of stuff to do. And I had this idea that if I started at the top and worked down, someday the list would go away and I would feel complete, right? Like I would feel like I'd achieved something. But the problem is that it was like bailing water, right? Like the water came in, the requests came in faster than I could complete them. So by letting my time be dictated by these sort of like this constant rush of demands, and I would prioritize them based on sort of the urgency. So was it someone who was important who asked me to do it? Or was it something that felt really urgent? And I would start my day that way. And by the end of the day, I would have run out of normal working hours. So then the really important things for my career, like writing grant proposals and writing manuscripts, were happening in the evenings and on weekends. And that's a pretty good recipe for being miserable, which is, where it was. And I don't think there's any like magic solution to this. It's certainly not that the demands are going to stop. Um, I think that I had to really change the way that I prioritized things. And I had to get comfortable with knowing that that list will always be there, that I will never, it will never be done, not until I quit or retire. And that living in a way that helps me be productive and healthy means that I have to focus on what like what matters to me. And I'm the only one who can make the decision about what's most important for my career.
So what has brought about these mindset shifts for you?
A lot of work, a lot of reading, and a lot of talking with colleagues. I think being part of a community of people who are willing to reflect on their experiences and share them and talk about how they're handling them is really critical to me. And then like there are certain trainings that I've found helpful. I really like 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. I think that is probably a book that impacted me most profoundly, but that wouldn't have helped without sort of like the coupling of talking with other academics and working with other academics to be honest about what that experience is and how common it is.
So given that you already had more than you could accomplish in a normal day, or even in an extra hour day, what made you join Research Leadership Mastery? So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a program that I developed for academics. We work mostly with research group leaders, but also with postdocs who want to be research group leaders. Sometimes even people who are fairly senior in their careers on their leadership skills.
Yeah, well, so I think I already said I was miserable, right? Like I spent my time trying to get through an impossible list of tasks, and really like my inner voice was telling me that I was a complete failure because I wasn't, right? And I had just gotten tenure before I took the course with you. So I had gotten to this point where I knew something had to change. And I realized again, it wasn't going to be the system. It had to be the way that I was dealing with it. So a friend of mine signed up for your course, and that kind of gave me a sense of permission that I could try and figure this out, right? Like I could try to figure out how to be happier, and that being happier and more fulfilled mattered. And I would say like the key from your course that helped put all this together was realizing that I had been chasing these external goals, right? Like I'd been trying to get tenure. I was checking boxes towards that. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to contribute through my work. And the work of going through and really checking in on what I value and what I believe in it's been critical to how I run my lab, how I schedule my day, how I parent, the type of person I am in my relationships and my friendships. It's been a pretty profound shift because it's not a matter of trying to get things done, right? Like it's not a matter of getting the schedule right. It's a matter of figuring out what matters and, for me and how I'm going to spend my time and my energy to achieve those changes.
Yes. So I feel like, I'm sometimes conflicted about talking to people about changing how they see things, because there is no doubt that the system needs change too, right? The academic system right now is problematic. There are a lot of toxic elements to it, and maybe we'll do a separate video on that one. I have a separate conversation. And at the same time, I feel like we can exist within it in a more empowered way. So these two things are not mutually exclusive, right? I feel like there's a lot of disempowerment in academia by like our colleagues or, affecting our colleagues, but also our trainees.
I mean, so many thoughts. Yeah. So I think that we are in a culture that involves a lot of comparison, and that can be really demoralizing. So if you're trying to be successful and be fulfilled in your life, but you're comparing yourself to somebody else's goals, or even sort of like an idealized set of external expectations, then that is just as toxic as the unending to-do list, right? Like it's still impossible. And so I think what you're getting at is that, from meditation teachings through to like every sort of like philosophical, psychological research I've seen, the first step in any sort of change is self-awareness and self-reflection. And I think the second step is sort of probably where I am, which is your personal actions are the very first step towards political change, right? If many of us can decide to pursue our career from a different place with, a mind towards what we personally value. And if we can create research cultures for our teams that are based on that, then that is like a grassroots culture change.
Right. And at the same time, I think dependent on how strongly we feel about being facilitators of change, we don't have to do that. It's not part of our job description necessarily. But I think we can make such a difference for our own little microcosmos, like for our teams. And so, I set out when I started my research program in 2016, wanting to do it differently. But I also discovered really quickly that just having good intentions is not going to be good enough, Like I can have good intentions and have this like vehicle run against the wall, like in slow motion, watching it anyways, because I don't have the skills, right? To do what's effective or to do what needs to be done in order to make sure that people don't feel constantly overwhelmed or that they feel like exhausted and burned out by the expectations.
I think we can all relate to that feeling of like, I care a lot about student mental health, but also I just did something that was completely counter to supporting whatever that thing is. I just so wholeheartedly can share that experience of like just caring about it and just even saying you care about it it does not affect the change. It's going to be a continual process of personal growth and then trying to change behavior in my role as a PI to like help build that. And then I think, in academics, we have so many different career phases. As you change positional power as well, if you move into administration, then you have a different sphere of influence.
Yes. I think this is a good point for us to stop this short conversation here. And then if you are interested in the leadership program, we'll put a link below into the comments that you can check out. All right. See you next time. Bye.